Dave Birkett here, along with Carlos Monarrez from his home in Metro Detroit, Shawn Windsor from the car in Indiana, and me, I am in the car as well. Shawn, I just wanted to make you feel comfortable this time. I knew you'd be in your car, so I figured
Plus,
I'd
you're in
do
a
it.
hoodie, man.
Yeah, I am in a hoodie, right? This is my Shawn Windsor look. I'm outside of my kid's school right now since we're shooting this on a Tuesday afternoon. I gotta pick them up, but we're gonna
Being the
talk a
great
little bit of
dad
football.
that you are.
We're going to talk. I know we're right in smack dab middle of the NCAA tournament. That's why Shawn is down in Indiana. But we have some football to talk about, a little bit of Lions. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell talked earlier this week. They're sort of what would essentially be their owners' meetings, press conferences. No, all that stuff is virtual this week. And then today, the NFL announced confirmed the 17th game will be played in 2021. So no more 6-10 predictions, Carlos, from you. No more 8-8 predictions from me. We got to have a. I mean, maybe I go 8-8-1, but it's
exactly.
we are now at an uneven slate of games. Let's just start with that. How do you guys feel about having 17 games? The NFL going to a 17 game schedule?
Go ahead, Carlos.
So yeah, I like it. I mean, that's 3 preseason games, right? Instead of 4.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, the preseason games, any reduction of that, I don't care what you do, is going to be good. I think 17, I've always wondered how far you can push it. I mean, when they had 14 and they went to 16, it was like, what's that going to be? And we do see the toll being taken on the players, and I don't know if science has helped lengthen careers, but I think they've made adjustments with the whole, IR thing, with the rule where you can come back. It's not all season. So they're being flexible about it. But, hey, more football's a good thing, I think.
Well, it's a good thing for the owners to line their pockets. Shawn, before you answer this question, I want to tell you about the 2017 Lions. Both of you guys may remember that season. The Lions went 9-7. They finished 4 games behind the Vikings in the NFC North. They had 1 win against a team with the winning record. All right. December comes and they lost to the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely did not deserve to be in the playoffs at all. Okay. Expanded postseason. When the postseason expands like last year, they make the playoffs with that 9-7 record. I think the 17 game schedule, it's just going to make for more bad football. Yes, there are some good games out there. The Packers, the Chiefs, right? We're going to get a game like that, but are we really clamoring for Lions Broncos? I mean, that's going to be the 17th game next season. I don't need more of that. I want to see good football. I want to see good games. I want to see the good teams play in the playoffs. I don't need to see a meaningless 17th game.
Well, there are a couple thoughts here. One, they should cut to 2 preseason games and then add a second bye, right? If you're worried about that. But in terms of your point, Carlos, I mean, there's generally less hitting in practice, right? Not just during the week, during the season, but in all the off-season camps. They just don't hit as much. They've gotten a lot smarter about that. So maybe, and I know even in practice, it's not quite as violent as the games, but maybe that helps a little bit. And I do have one quick technical question. So what are they going to do, Dave? Are they going to alternate 9 at home and 9 and away every other year or something like that?
AFC, the 17th game is a crossover between the AFC and the NFC division that you played a couple years ago. This year, the AFC is a home team. Next year, it'll be NFC teams. So that way, every team in conference has an equal number of home and away games.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Look, this is really, I mean, you can't just think as a Lions fan or as the best beat writer in America, or in Carlos's case, the best golfer in America. You have to think about the NFL fans in general, getting that extra week of games, and they're going to be they don't care about 8 or however many games it'd be on a given day, 16 games or whatever it would be. They care about, can you find 2 or 3 games out of those 16 that fill up a couple of 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday and maybe a Monday night? And that's what this is really about. So
this is about the owners lining their pockets and about the gambling. And I get it. I understand why they're doing it. I don't think there's no one's pretending like that's not why it's happening, right? The NFL lost money. They didn't lose money, right? Their revenues weren't what they normally would have been last year because of the pandemic. So lo and behold, yeah, they shoved the 17 game season in. And I'll tell you guys, I mean, if you remember last year, players were not too happy. They voted to pass the CBA by a razor thin margin. It was like 60 votes, right? And the only reason that it was passed was because the players that voted were all of the the practice squad guys, the 2,500 people that line the 90-man rosters, those were some of the people that voted. And I'm not saying those votes don't matter, but those aren't the people that are playing 17 games and taking the toll on their body and feel like, hey, we're making enough money for what we're putting in through this. So I think this was done in spite of players' wishes. And me, I'm a player sort of guy. So that's
Well,
part of
if
the
they
reason
cut
why
back to
I don't like
preseason,
this too.
if they cut back to preseason though, then that's at least a little bit of a trade-off. Well, of course they did it for money, but I'm just saying it's not just stadium revenue, it's television revenue too, right? And because they think there's a market out there for it. And you're complaining about the bad games and the bad football, but my point is they can find enough games to put on national television in that extra week to get at least some ratings. So they make money that way too. That's all I was trying to say.
I have a little argument against Dave is, from my perspective, is what he doesn't want bad teams making the tournament essentially. So Dave would never have wanted UCLA to go through a play-in game to get, because they were obviously not deserving. I mean, a bad basketball team like UCLA would go nowhere in the NCAA tournament. So, bad. All you need to do, Dave, is get into the tournament, give us a chance. We're going to make something happen. We all know the Lions are a postseason team. They're built for the postseason. So how dare you deny the poor little Lions or one glimmer of hope in the postseason? So shame on you.
Weren't the Buccaneers the wild card team this past year?
Yeah, I mean, I believe you're right. The Buccaneers were the wild card team, and look, you're right. The Lions are a postseason team. They've been proving it once every 3 decades since 1991. No, but it's not. The Bucs were a good team. We're not talking about, right? I mean, they had Tom Brady and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and right, they had some talent. I'm cool with seeing some of those teams play, and I just don't need to see Lions Broncos. Let's be honest.
I understand that. And my point about the Buccaneers, of course, they were a good team, but they didn't play. It took a while. And some teams, maybe you need that last part of the season. And I'm not saying that was the case when the Lions lost to Baltimore and Cincinnati, especially that Cincinnati lost, right? But sometimes teams find themselves, and maybe that extra game will help. And you're going to think, oh, they sucked in October. But then they make a run to the AFC or NFC Championship game. I mean, it's possible because we've seen it.
You're absolutely right. And look, a couple other things that come along with the 17-game schedule. Every NFL team will now play an international game every 8th year. So, it's sort of maybe one of the trade-offs, I guess, of the home and away. The who gets the balanced schedule, how that shakes out. Sounds like there's not going to be a ton of international games this year. COVID's still going on. There's still some things that need to happen. Shawn, you mentioned the 3-game postseason and maybe going to 2. So the CBA right now stipulates that the schedule can be 20 games maximum. So I think the NFL players would have to approve a leap to 18. But if it ever did go to 18, it would be a 2-game preseason. And I think fewer preseason games is better. We can all agree on that. Right. And maybe there will be some of those joint practices that happen. But I do think that's right around the corner. Right. I just don't see the NFL staying at 17 games for a while. This is just the next step to 18 games.
Okay. This is all great fun, but let's talk about something that really matters. Do you guys think the Lions are going to draft another tight end?
Well, I mean, I gave him Kyle Pitts in my last mock draft, so I certainly think it's possible. Look, you listen to what Dan Campbell has said, just by the makeup of this coaching staff and this front office, how they want to build the team. I absolutely think Kyle Pitts is in the mix for them. I mean, quarterbacks are probably going to go with the first 4 picks, at least the first 3, probably the first 4, whether it's the Falcons or a team like the Panthers trading up. That means 5, 6, 7, Lions are picking at 7. You're talking about the best offensive tackle, Penei Sewell, the best wide receiver, Jamar Chase, the best tight end, Kyle Pitts. I think those 3 are the 3 best non-quarterbacks on the board. And so if you're the Detroit Lions, maybe your pecking order is Sewell, Chase, Pitts, but you're not going to leap, a talent level. You're not going to go down and look, maybe the Alabama receivers are up there with those guys, but you're not going to drop down a talent level to pass on one of the very blue chip players in the draft. And I think Kyle Pitts is that. So I do think Kyle Pitts to the Lions is a distinct possibility next month.
What do you think, Carlos?
I'm worried that Dave's right. I mean, it would be so scary to see that, Dan Campbell tight end picks a tight end, 7th. And And when has a top 10 tight end not worked out for the Lions? I just think that you can, I don't know everything about I mean, Dan Campbell was talking about Kyle Pitts like he was a combination of Kellen Winslow and Tony Gonzalez and Mike Ditka and I don't know what. I mean, I don't know enough about this guy. I know that they say he can do a lot of things well. He's a big, fast dude. He can block. He can, it sounds like Pettigrew. It sounds like they're talking a little bit about Pettigrew. Guy kind of does everything well, better offensive weapon. But when you have TJ Hawkinson, I don't think you need a second tight end. I mean, I think if you were set at receiver, like, oh man, we got Calvin Johnson, or we signed Kenny Galladay and we got Marvin Jones and we got, but you need an outside speed guy still right now. I think that's important, whether maybe the draft value is dropping on receivers now, but a tight end, it might be a guy falling too much in love with his own position and overvaluing that position. The last guy was, I remember like Rob Gronkowski was the guy and he had some injuries, so he dropped in the draft. But I remember he was a guy, they tracked him through Arizona in college and saying, this guy's going to be a dude. Because we had Dan Gronkowski in the Lions. And I remember I talked to him a lot about it. It's like, oh yeah, my brother's great. He's going to be great. But he just had some injury issues. I just think you can get better value. My hope would be that you trade back. And I think if Michael Parsons, the linebacker, if he's there, I don't know if he bought, what the evaluations have been about Parsons, but I think they need a lot more help at linebacker. To me, that'd be now what you can't always trade back, but that would be ideal more than getting a second tight end. You already have a pretty good one.
Well, you make good points, Carlos, and I'm not ashamed or afraid to say that. Actually, you often make good points. I mean, I think, right, Dave? In any case,
let's not stretch the truth here.
Okay, let's not stretch. There are a couple thoughts. One, I hate to keep going back to Tampa Bay, but watching their linebackers rip through the playoffs and wreaking the havoc they did. You're right. It's tempting, and moving back in the draft, it would probably be smart, and then trusting your instincts to get another. I don't know what you'd pick up if you move back. Maybe you get another late. I don't know if you get 2 late rounds or a late round first and an early second or whatever you get, and then trust your scouting, and that's fine. On the other hand, the New England Patriots tore the league up a couple of years with the 2 tight ends, Gronkowski and then a guy who ended up having some serious character issues, and that sort of stopped that experiment. But I wondered if he hadn't had those struggles and they'd had somebody else who was, a little more well-rounded or a lot more well-rounded off the field, what that would have looked like. I think we forget that because that all ended in such tragedy. But on the field, it was really something to behold and kind of new. And to me, you put Pitts with Hawkinson, you might have a chance to recreate some of that, because Pitts is not Pettigrew. I think I saw Dave shaking his head like, are you out of your freaking mind, Carlos? Pitts is something that might be new, right? He might be new, and maybe he's not, but why not take a chance on something that we haven't seen before in a way?
Look, I'm reading the breadcrumbs on this, right? And Shawn, I agree with you, right? You go back, New England did it. They're trying to do it again. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, who they signed this offseason, and Philadelphia, obviously Zach Ertz, they spent a high pick on Dallas Goedert, so there are other teams that have tried this, but just reading the breadcrumbs on this, right? You listen to Brad Holmes yesterday when he talked about, receivers and why they didn't, spend on Kenny Galladay, because there's depth, and there's depth there every year at wide receiver, right? That just tells me that they don't want to overspend at the receiver position because they think that's becoming the new running back. I mean, we've talked about this before, right? Like, you can find those guys in a lot of places that are productive. You go back to what Dan Campbell said in his initial press conference about wanting mismatches, right? And the ability to force defenses to cover you in different ways and put our best on your worst and the different things you can do. I mean, that's a guy like Pitts. Those are tight ends that if you're playing him in Hawkinson together, you can do so many different things. What he has said about Kyle Pitts being special and, the position that he played. And again, I just think, that, look, the other component of this is, we all say, and I know the Lions don't want to use the rebuild term, is they're still a couple years away from contending here, right? And the financial component is, and I wrote about this a little bit in my Pitts thing too, is when you spend on a tight end, that's about a $5 million difference between the top of the tight end market and the top of the receiver market, maybe even a little bit more. So you're leaving yourself a little bit more room to then spend on the rest of your roster. And I don't know, Hawkinson had a really good year, second year Pro Bowler. I don't know if you're going to spend on two elite tight ends, but you have yourself some time to make that decision on whether, Pitts is that guy if you do draft him. So I think there's a lot of components that go into the mix here where I would love, to see them get a receiver, a speed element on the outside, like you said, Carlos, Jalen Waddle. I think Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the draft, so I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I don't know that that's the best value of a top 10 pick either, and I don't think a defensive player is worth a top 10 pick. I don't think you're going to leap the elite players in the draft for a guy like Parsons who has some off field questions. So I think Pitts, who is clean off the field, who checks a lot of the boxes that they want, I think he is distinctly in the mix for the Lions at number 7.
And he does have speed, right? So it's not like he runs a 4.4. So they were in your piece, you were talking about lining them up all over the place, right?
Yep.
And by the way, you also smartly pointed out Kelsey is making what, $14 million a year, yep, which is 6 million, whatever less than Golladay is signed for with the Giants. So to your point, and Kelsey, you would probably argue is a better, I hate the word weapon in football, but a better playmaker, absolutely, a more important playmaker.
Agree 100%.
Can the Lions get Patrick Mahomes to Kyle Pitts? Is that possible?
Hey, look, that's still the wild card with this whole draft here, right? I mean, we all think quarterbacks are going top 4, and who knows, right? Maybe it's Mac Jones. I mean, those rumors are out there. I have a hard time seeing the 49ers trade up to number 3 for Mac Jones. I think that could be the Trey Lance, pick, because if they're keeping Garoppolo, they have time to sit. But that's still the whole wild card in this. What if a guy like Trey Lance is there at 7 for the Lions? I mean, to me, you still need to find, that long-term solution at quarterback. And a guy like Trey Lance, who is the modern day, quarterback in the NFL, I think a guy like that would be a home run pick for the Lions.
So Carlos is Mahomes without Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
That's a good question.
Tom Brady,
aren't we?
What was the difference? Look at Tom Brady last year in New England and who he was throwing to in their production versus who he was throwing to in Tampa in their production.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dave awarded Patrick Mahomes the double MVP of the Super Bowl, and because I think he threw one pass while he was falling down or something. It was an incomplete, but still.
Yeah, but that was a pretty spectacular pass, right? Yeah. We talked about this, right?
Absolutely, we did.
Stafford actually throws passes like that occasionally, and look what that does.
Mahomes is the GOAT. We don't want to have to rehash this. Mahomes is absolutely he is the best quarterback in the NFL. And yes, he would still be Mahomes, but Shawn, yes, you need weapons. That's the bottom line. You can't do it alone, even as great as Mahomes is.
Let me ask you this. Before, the trades and the 49ers and all the stuff and the Dolphins and, now that it seems like there's going to be a run on the quarterbacks, like the first, 4 or 5 picks are going to go for quarterbacks. Now that whole thing of scarcity now, like we thought there was a very good chance that 1, maybe 2 of the top 4 quarterbacks would fall to the Lions at 7. They might still be there if nobody traded up on draft day, if things kind of stayed status quo. But now that it seems like the quarterbacks may be gone, the first top 4 quarterbacks, if there is, now do you feel like, oh, we don't want to miss, maybe Trey Lance is the guy, maybe, does that create that scarcity, idea of scarcity, does that create more desire to get a quarterback this year for Lions?
I'll say what I've always said on that is that, quarterback it's the most important position in all of sports, I think, right? And you need to have a really good quarterback to be successful in the NFL, to have sustained long-term success. I think you don't want to force it. You never do, right? If that guy is there, like if you identify Trey Lance and you say this guy is going to has the capability to be a star in 2 years, if we nurture him, we build him up, we bring him along the right way, then you take that guy. But just because the 4 quarterbacks go, like that shouldn't make you. Looks like we lost Shawn. You don't want. There he is. He's back.
My phone's just running down. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll end this here shortly, but you don't want that to be the reason why you take a quarterback, just because the scarcity of the position. Because I think, as I've said before, the worst decisions that you can make are the ones when you're forced into that position, right? Oh my God, we need a quarterback. We're going to take Christian Ponder because he's there at 12, and we absolutely need that position. No, that's the absolutely 100% wrong reason to take a quarterback. So you have to take the guy that you really believe in can be that elite quarterback, not because you need that position. And that's what I think the Lions did successfully with Jared Goff, is they have a quarterback that's going to be able to get them through however long they need him for. Maybe that's a year or 2 or 5, or who knows, maybe he is that guy, but I think they have that guy. And so now they can go about trying to find the superstar at that position, somebody that they believe to be that. And if he's there at 7, you absolutely have to take him. If he's not, you don't take the position just to fill the position.
Yeah, the only thing about that is just that, as you know, whoever they pick is going to be the guy. It's magically, it was whatever it is, 40 people in the building had complete consensus about this. This is our favorite all-time player.
That is true what happens in the NFL.
Right. And you know what? I mean, to me, like the only player that every single team would take is Trevor Lawrence. That's it. They would take, maybe not the Rams because Stafford's so good, but Trevor Lawrence, 31 other teams would love him, right? So, but after that, the quarterbacks, I think the top 4 quarterbacks, Lawrence, and then obviously, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, and who's the other one? I'm forgetting somebody.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields.
Wilson, Justin Fields, yeah.
Justin Fields. Yeah, Mr. 4-4 today, right? Yeah, Justin Fields. Those 4 guys, I think most teams would be pretty comfortable. Who knows what off the field stuff and whatever little things they're hearing about, but on the field, their production, what they've done, how they look, all that stuff. I think most teams would be pretty comfortable with them. Mac Jones is probably more the wild card that, like, I don't know if he fits everybody's taste. There's more questions about him, but that's where I'm not saying that, yeah, he has to, he needs to be your guy, right? You don't want to reach for poor Christian Ponder, throwing him under the bus like that. Samantha Ponder's not going to be happy to hear that, Dave. But yeah, that's I think that it'd be like a reasonable thing. Like, hey, because I guarantee you, as much as maybe you're in love with Kyle Pitts, I'm sure there's people in the Lions facility who are like, I don't see it. Like, do we really need a tight end here? Do we need, everybody needs for their people, right? And what we don't know right now is what this offense is going to be, or what the defense is going to be. We're not sure what they're going to run, how they're going to run things, and maybe the wide receiver thing is a smoke screen. Maybe that's a thing that they're saying, oh yeah, there's plenty of guys all over the place, and we can find 1,000-yard receivers anywhere in the draft, they're fine. Tyrell Williams is going to lead the charge. That dude's going to be a Pro Bowler. You just watch. So some of this may be gamesmanship, but I just wonder if they're thinking more, but they will have the draft capital next year to go up and get if they need to. So it probably doesn't have to be a quarterback this year. So, but if they like their guy, if they like Trey Lance and he's there, how do you pass him up?
Unless the Philadelphia Eagles use all their draft capital to go up higher and get the quarterback, because they have more than the Lions. So.
You could also argue that it gives Goff a season with, right, to see what he can do without any kind of looking over the shoulder and knowing that his replacement's right there and all that. I mean, gives him one shot at it. I mean, who knows?
I think that's important. No, yeah, because it is. Because if whatever, the Lions certainly think Goff and have a history with Goff, right? This regime that they think, maybe Goff is better than people have given him credit for. And I think that's part of it, that you need to get a real evaluation of him. And in order to get that, you have to make sure he's surrounded with the right supporting cast. And right now the Lions are certainly lacking some offensive weapons to do that. So, all right, guys, we're going to leave it there because we're running out of time, and Shawn's got some pie to get back to in Indiana. And, I got some kids to pick up here in a couple minutes at school. So, look, we've got another month to talk about the draft. So we will.
We do. Yeah. We got plenty of time. By the way, what's Carlos wearing? Because from my vantage point, it looks like either a black practice jersey or a fake mustache that's oversized, like a prop mustache that's kind of hanging down there that fell off his upper lip.
I'm wearing a hoodie, it's the Shawn Windsor collection hoodie.
Oh, I see. So you've got like a chest plate and on your hoodie there, kind of. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, nice.
And this is a place for me to get. This is in Erie, Pennsylvania, home of the AA Erie Seawolves, where my wife is from. So Polish Falcons. That's where we get our fish fry on during the win.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm gonna write a food column. I think just for you, Carlos.
Free advertising for all.
I'd love it.
Free advertising for all. Get
Yeah.
So next time you go down to do and we'll have to tell Jeff about that if he gets back on the minor league baseball train, he can go stop it and get some Polish.
No, Jeff's more like you, Dave. He's more of a dinosaur nuggets type of guy. You know what I mean?
I tried some of that sugar pie in Indiana, so I'm.
You did no, yeah, no, yeah, no, for sure.
All right, we'll leave it
All right,
there
guys.
for Carlos Monarrez, Shawn Windsor. I'm Dave Birkett. You're listening to us here on Freak.com.